Hey there. In today's video, I'm going to demonstrate how I approach QA automation. To do this, I built a portfolio-grade MVP test automation suite for the OpenEMR Patient Portal. This project is going to use Selenium and PyTest, and it's structured to look and feel like a real-world automation framework, but scoped as an MVP so I can show my core workflows, security checks, and CI/CD integration. So just as some background context, OpenEMR is an open source medical records software. In this software, they give us a fully functioning demo for us to try out. We have two options of patients that we can choose from, Phil and Susan, and we can actually log in using those credentials and test out the functionality of the application ourselves like so. Once we log in, we have a dashboard with a full set of features for us to try out, and we could manually test all these features are working correctly if we wanted to. However, this is a slow, repetitive, and easy to get wrong process, especially in healthcare where HIPAA compliance is critical. If we use automated tests, we can give faster feedback, catch regressions, and validate that security rules are enforced. So this project is an example of how I can spin up a maintainable automation suite for a client's web application. In this MVP suite, I automated 13 test cases based on a manual test plan that I wrote for the OpenEMR portal. The test cases cover authentication, so valid login, invalid login, and logout. It covers the profile integrity, so making sure that demographics like name, date of birth, and phone number appear correctly and are formatted consistently. Appointments, requesting a new appointment, editing an existing one, and canceling. Messaging, sending a message to a provider and viewing messages in the inbox. And finally, HIPAA negative security tests, so making sure a patient cannot access another patient's records by tampering with the URL, and that they can't access the staff or admin pages. So here is the repo structure. Inside the pages folder are the page object model classes. So all of these inherit from our base page, which contains some basic functionality such as click, type, get text, and is visible. And then for each page in the portal, so we have our appointments, dashboards, documents, login, messaging, and profile. They each have their own locators and methods. Then we have our test folders, which are mapped to the specific test case IDs. So we have test 1 through 3 for authentication, 4 through 6 for demographics, 7 through 9 for appointments, 10 and 11 for messaging, and 12 and 13 for the HIPAA and negative security. Configuration is centralized in this comptest.py file, which manages the browser setup, the headless mode, and the automatic screenshots on failure. And then we have this pytest.ini configuration file, which defines the markers for the smoke tests, regression tests, and security tests. And that way I can selectively run only the tests that I want to. And finally, we have this GitHub Actions workflow, which runs everything headlessly on Chrome whenever I push the repo to the GitHub, and then it uploads this report.html as an artifact. So the whole project is powered by this env file, which contains the credentials and the base URLs so that I can configure these without ever touching the code itself. So let's see it in action. I'll run the full test suite here mode with headless mode disabled so that you can see all the tests automate execution on their own. And then I will demonstrate the CI/CD pipeline. I'll speed this up a little bit in order to not take too much time. Okay, so that was an example of all the tests passing in our local browser. You can see here it updated this reports.html file. So if I were to open this file in the browser, you can see that we use pytest.html to generate our report here, and we can see that all tests were passing and along with their time, and any output that was captured in this case, there would be no log output captured. To show you an example of a failing test, let me inject a failure into a test here. So if, I'll run test case 07 and let me just comment out a line. So I'll run this. The test case should fail. And here you should see that it will take a automatic screenshot of the failure and it'll update our reports.html accordingly. So I'll run just test case 07 here. You can see that we got our traceback message here, and then here it took us an automatic screenshot. So if we were running this headless, we would still be able to see the screenshot of what went wrong during the test, and our HTML would be updated accordingly and give us the traceback log of where the test failed, along with the stack trace. So this has been the demo in our local browser. Now let's show you the CI/CD integration. So the CI pipeline will execute via GitHub Actions every time that there is a pull request to the main branch. So here, this YAML file will execute a checkout repo, set up Python, install dependencies, install our Chrome browser, and then it'll run our PyTest suite with the environment variable embedded into this YAML file, and then it will produce our report as I shown in the local browser. This will always upload regardless of whether the PyTest passes or fails. So let me show you an example. If I inject a small change into the README, and then I'll make a pull request and show what the GitHub action in action looks like. Okay, so now coming back to our GitHub, let's say this branch, we want to contribute our changes into main. We can open our pull request and then create it. Upon doing so, the CI/CD pipeline will automatically execute. So here you can see that the check has started, and here it'll run in the browser. I'll also speed this part up in order to save some time. Okay, so the job completed and it passed. If we go look, we can actually download the PyTest report here. And then again, we get the same report as we got in our local environment, but this is coming from the CI/CD pipeline. So you can imagine if we wanted to add more test cases or remove test cases later, or make changes if the website itself changes, we can continuously verify that everything is working by running this pipeline before accepting any pull requests. So as a recap, this project is a portfolio-grade MVP automation suite for the OpenEMR Patient Portal. It demonstrates my ability to write maintainable automation code with Selenium and PyTest, structure code with the page object model, set up CI pipelines so that tests can run automatically, produce HTML reports that non-technical stakeholders can review, and even incorporate negative security tests, which is especially important in regulated environments such as healthcare. For a client project, I could easily extend this suite to cover more workflows, integrate API checks, or run parallel across multiple browsers. This code is on GitHub, and you can find a link in the video description. And if you're looking for someone to build or improve your QA automation, this is the kind of work that I can deliver. So, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.